Good morning. We're back in action at Senate Agriculture. We're going to continue our discussion with our council, Bradley Shulman. We have a draft version of 3.2. We worked on a lot of small but not insignificant parts of it this morning, nailing down some Indian chat, as they might say. So we will, I don't know if that's the right version, is it?
Choose that reference.
Supposed to be a little bit non-political in here. So, Bradley, welcome and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I sent you sent me, and I sent the response back about the some correspondence you had with the control board. I don't know if that had made the final draft, but I doubt that it did. But anyways,
so let me just take a look here. Linda, I know that you sent me the Zoom link and I can't find it.
I'll send you that.
Thank you so much. So there were so the Cannabis Control Board sent a very small change earlier today that did make it into this draft.
Okay.
And that change was to section 853 hemp and agriculture products. And it was a very small change.
Something about Delta 9 or something like that.
Actually, it was not. So maybe I don't have what.
Well, maybe it's just you guys that had further discussions and that just got on.
Yeah, so what we were supposed to receive that I did not receive was a information on the fees section of this bill.
Which has not changed.
Which has not changed. And I've asked for it a few times. And I have not received it.
Okay, so Pepper came in and basically said what they had is what they had.
Okay.
And with assurances that by the time all of this hit the open market, that we would be back in session next year, and that at that point in time it was still a working group. They were still having conversations. That they were more than likely, before it's all said and done, was to even exclude some salves and some ingestibles. But as for right now, the bigger part of this was to get the language done so that these people could still do business.
Okay.
And that they would that they still wanted to continue conversations moving forward.
Okay. So for the only change then that I received from the from the Cannabis Control Board was this change this is on page 40 of Senate Bill 323, draft 3.2, dated 3/11/2026. Up on the screen here, page 40, lines 15. It just added just kind of an overarching piece here, saying that hemp is an agricultural product. Produced, processed, marketed, and commercially traded in Vermont pursuant to this chapter that we are moving from Title 6 to Title 7 and the administrative rules of the Cannabis Control Board. So that kind of adds some administrative due process protections to individuals who are applying for permits, appealing their denials, and things of that sort. That is the only change that I received from them. If there are additional changes floating around,
I don't believe so. I'm looking at the dates on the email, and I think I was just copying on all the summer conversations
Okay.
we've had in the past.
Perfect. And so I'm going to scroll to Big Bill. Scroll to my changes. And so the first change here on the draft is on page 1. And we just said at least past 20 years of law, because there is some not ambiguity, but the law as we currently know it is about 20 years old, but there's more law that preceded that. that had the same effect of prohibiting municipalities from regulating agriculture. So we just added the piece there. And if you're watching on the screen, my apologies, because you might be getting a little motion sick as I scroll through this bill, but we are on page 9. And this is a change to the accessory on-farm permit. As we've discussed before, changes to Act 250 are might be a little controversial in other committees. But this is where this committee has landed. And the only change here from the last time we saw this bill was adding the equivalent of value of donated farm crops. And then later on, we say, as used in the subsection, donated farm crops means charitable contributions of farm crops that are allowable under the statute and are made to an organization that's unrelated to the owner of the enrolled land. So this is that same definition that we use in the tax piece earlier on. And we'll just copy that definition here to permit donated farm crops when discerning whether someone needs an accessory on-farm permit.
So I asked earlier and I was shocked. I said, "You're flunker couldn't answer." The Title 26 of the US Code, does that define what nonprofit is? I think it's cross-referenced, but
I would, because the nonprofit status is just a tax exempt status.
okay.
And I would have to look back into.
No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Trust me.
But that is, and tax is Kirby's wheelhouse, and so I'm kind of taking his lead on this. But if you do want more information, Kevin, you can report back.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
How much is this changing on section 4? How much is this changing the on-farm, the structure permit as far as to what's already in law?
So, that is a good question because right now it's based on a percentage of the farm sales. And so more than 50% of the farm sales have to come from products off the farm. And if you're changing it to a fixed dollar amount that adjusts for inflation, depending on how much product that farm produces, it might be less than 50% of their products coming from the farm. It might be less than 50% of their products coming from the farm would actually be produced on the farm and sold there. And so, it potentially for a large business, this could be fairly meaningful, and not a lot of product could be actually produced and sold on the farm itself and be eligible for this exception. And that might be something that people take issue with, because it could be the case that someone has a farm business that, as a percentage of their total sales, percentage of their total products, is selling someone else's stuff more than they're selling their own stuff, and that might prove controversial.
Okay, I'll have a conversation with Nectar Resources to look at that section as well.
Good idea.
I mean, this section says, not more than 250,000 adjusted inflation in total sales of the prepared or processed qualifying products, number of products that are not produced on the farm. It's just depending on the size of the business, that could mean one way or another. It could mean that they're potentially not using enough of their own product that they're producing on their farms for the business.
So let's try to give us a scenario. We're at a farm stand,
Mhm.
a very well-known farm stand,
Okay.
and they have their product there, but they also buy maple syrup from a different,
Major maple syrup.
from a different part of the state. That maple syrup sales outdoes their sales.
Potentially, right? So
That-
more than,
That would kick over the 50% and then what happens at that point? What kicks in? What do they just get say, hey, oh, you gotta watch this? What's the law really do?
Mhm.
This just says this is helping out people who want to donate, but I can see where you were coming from, that if you were selling still a Vermont product, but it came from somebody else's farm.
yeah,
But it's about the permitting of structures, yeah.
They need a permit for their maple syrup store instead of.
Right.
No permit for their.
Right. Yeah, let's not, that's a great point. Let's not lose sight of that's what it is. And at that point,
I think
if they do go over that, then they'll need a permit. So that in itself would let them say, hey, listen, we should be careful of what we do here, or we're gonna have to get a permit. So
Yeah.
they're not turning into a large scale business, they're turning it on.
And if you were a large, you want to get the right permit.
Right,
I would believe.
so there, I mean, that answered it for me, that part.
I think
there.
Yeah, for probably 99% of the people we deal with, this is.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right. So it's not to create a big scale business to avoid a permit. If you wanna be bigger, then you gotta get permit.
That we brought up a great point in this thing, so.
Yeah, well, that was a good discussion.
on page 10 is the next change. This was just a mistake. I conferred with Kirby, but we're adding the equivalent value of donated farm crops to this section, the land use value appraisal, to permit donated farm crops to make someone eligible for land use value appraisal. And we're not quite sure how that worked out to believe it there, but it's back in. The next change is to the solar section. We are on page 11 is where the solar section starts. So most of that was removed. And this is Ellen's section. Unfortunately, Ellen was not available today. I was doing my best to follow the communications yesterday.
We kind of went through this with Peter Sterling and so I'm gonna let you finish it up, but I think we were at the end of the day, I think we were happy with what we saw.
Yeah, and so this just requires full spectrum audit of kind of Cradle to Grave payback time and carbon dioxide emissions for licensing new solar and requiring that the facility comply with decommissioning requirements. The facility is likely already required to do that, but if the committee is satisfied with the language, it's welcome to keep that in there.
He pretty much said the same, that they pretty much have to do that, but this least. That's another spot of law, they noticed it.
Okay. No changes there. Okay, so just scrolling. I don't think I made I think that might actually be it, but I'm just kind of scrolling through the yellow highlighters.
It's not, page 40.
We just did that.
You did that first.
Yep.
You did that first. You worked back.
Yes, because we started talking about cannabis control because I had been waiting on something from them, but it turns out that they're happy with the language as it's. And so that would be the fees language. And so the fees language on page 46, that is a fairly substantial reduction in the fees relative to the current statute. But that is a policy choice. And so as long as everyone understands that and is comfortable with that, then there it is. There might be questions about the change, but that change is, it seems to be something people are comfortable with. And that's Phil.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your hard work. I think we're gonna be really good. Pass this out to one committee, have them take a couple looks at it and a couple sections and we should hear back and we'll vote this sucker out if everything goes the way I think it will.
And so just let me know if there's any additional changes. And if there are no additional changes, just ping me and then I will send Linda a clean copy of the bill so that you can forward it because this bill has highlights and that will everyone upset.
Yeah.
So
Especially the blue ones.
hey, the yellow. I find the yellow harder on my eyes, but you know.
Well, you're younger than Santa Claus.
All right. Well, thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Bradley. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it very much.
you are very welcome.
Committee. Anything else that you'd like to discuss? What we call it a day?